welcome to this week's edition of the Record Rangers podcast. I'm Gavin Berry, and once again, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by the Daily Record's Andy Newport, who's just hot-footed it from the airport after being in Servette last night, and Sunday Mail's chief football writer, Scott McDermott. And I'm delighted to say this week's special guest is Maarten Wijffels. Hope I pronounced that right, Maarten, from Algemeen Dagblad. Is that right?
Yeah, Algemeen Dagblad. Yes.
Is that right? Is that a good effort?
Yeah.
Was that a good effort?
Yeah, you did well. You did well.
Yeah.
Everybody understands it.
Great. So Andy watched Rangers get the all-important 1-1 draw with Servette last night in Geneva. That takes Rangers into the playoff round of the Champions League. And of course, PSV Eindhoven, a slightly more convincing win over two legs against Sturm Graz. PSV didn't have to sweat in the same way Rangers did. And I'm not just talking about the temperature, Andy, over there. So it's a repeat of last season, exact same stage. Rangers won on that occasion. Maarten, I think the final whistle had hardly blown, and PSV Eindhoven tweeted, "It's time for revenge." Is that the feeling? Is that the feeling in the PSV camp? Is it all about revenge?
Yeah, definitely. And they were happy that they got Rangers and not Servette. Not because of strength differences, but the sentiment, the feeling that it's time for revenge, and they think they have a better chance than last year because there are a couple of differences. We shall talk about it, I think. But yeah, interesting, eh? The same tie, the same away and home matches. So yeah, it's all the same, and yeah, everybody's looking forward to it.
Yeah. Were you surprised at just how convincing it was for PSV Eindhoven against Sturm Graz, and how much was that to do with PSV Eindhoven being impressive and Sturm Graz perhaps not being the strongest opposition?
No, because Sturm Graz wasn't the strongest opposition. They played PSV before. I think it was 2 years ago, and they played Feyenoord last year, and both ties were convincingly won by the Dutch team. So before this round, everybody thought already that PSV would qualify. So well, that happened, and what was it? 2-7 on the score over two matches. So that was no problem at all.
Yeah. Just finally from me for now, Maarten. You say there's a lot of differences from last season. Before the tie last year, there was a lot of talk around Cody Gakpo going. He stayed for the Rangers tie. Rangers still got through. And then now we read this morning Ibrahim Sangare, who scored at Ibrox and was excellent in that home game, saying that possibly in the next couple of days Bayern Munich could step up their bid to get him. Do you expect him still to be a PSV player by the time of the Rangers game?
Well, PSV signed officially today Jerdy Schouten, a player from Bologna in Italy, and he is already signed as a replacement for Sangare. So if Sangare goes, they have a good replacement for the Rangers matches. But yeah, I don't know. At this moment, PSV can ask 37 million euros for Sangare because that is the clause he has in his contract. So, well, I will not be surprised if they wait until the Rangers games are played to sell him maybe in the last weeks of the window. Yeah, it depends. If Bayern München really wants a player like that, well, they will get him, but at this moment, he's still a PSV player, and nothing concrete has happened.
Maarten, how big a blow would that be to PSV if they lost Sangare for the Rangers games? And I know you say they've got a good replacement, but he's a big player for them.
Yeah, he is a big player for them, but the replacement will fit even more in the tactics of the new coach Peter Bos. So if that Jerdy Schouten, who has already played in Holland, so he knows also the league and the country. So I don't think he he needs a lot of adaptation time. So I think it will not influence the chances of PSV in that tie.
You said there's a lot of differences from last year. What are the what are the main differences? Why do you think PSV believe that they can get revenge and they will do it this time?
Well, the most important difference is that they have a new coach, and Peter Bos knows exactly how he will play. He's an experienced coach. He's almost 60 years old. He played Rangers with Bayer Leverkusen in European ties, and he has already in a couple of weeks set the team to his standards and to what he wants, how they play football. And last season, they had Ruud van Nistelrooy. Was his first job as a senior on senior level. And for example, in the home match, Giovanni van Bronckhorst, the coach of Rangers, said afterwards, we thought in the first 30 minutes PSV will do everything to score. They will get the crowd behind them. They will make a storm. But nothing of that happened. Rangers got the ball, and afterwards in the PSV camp, everybody said, "Well, we didn't know exactly how to handle the match. Will we attack? Will we go back? And now there will be no how do you say that? There will be no doubt at all how to play." And that will be a big difference. And I think the Rangers played Ajax in the Champions League, and they were, I think, the second match at Ibrox. Rangers had, I think, 24% of the ball possession, and well, we will see. I don't know exactly the same, but PSV will also have the ball and try to attack in both matches. And what I say, there will be no doubt how to handle this game. And last year there was.
Maarten, you mentioned obviously there Peter Bos. I mean, he's a figure who's fairly well known in Glasgow. Now I think this is his the third time he's come up against Rangers. Also in charge of Lyon when they came to Ibrox as well.
Yeah.
How is he being viewed by the PSV fans? Has he been impressing them so far? How are they viewing his work, his early work?
Yeah, well, they see him in the first. PSV wanted the transition this season. They wanted to play more attacking football, more to please the crowd, and until this moment they do. Well, they won the Super Cup at Feyenoord in Rotterdam, played dominant football there. They won the two games in Europe, and Bos he brought a smile back on the faces of the players and in the crowd, and maybe also an important Luc de Jong, the captain and the main striker. Last season in the Rangers game in Eindhoven, he got injured. At halftime, they had to substitute him. And that was also a big loss. And then in that period, he came back from a spell with Barcelona, and he was not fully fit. And now he has, in the first 4 games, he has 3 goals and 1 assist. And now he's fit, and well, he will play also an important role. And that's also a factor in the coming matches.
Obviously, I was in Eindhoven last year for that game, and we remember there's some comments afterwards from Joey Veerman. He wasn't particularly happy with the way that the game panned out. Didn't feel that Rangers deserved to go through. I mean, you think that adds all into this sort of feeling that the team are out for revenge, that they've got a point to prove because of the way things panned out last year?
Yeah, well, they have, and there's one more thing that was last season. The teams made a different approach. Rangers played on in the Scottish League, and PSV got a week off. And afterwards, I remember that Giovanni van Bronckhorst said, "Well, I think we made the right decision to play on. stay in the focus. And at PSV, the game against Rangers on the training field, it became bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and the pressure was rising. And it will be interesting this time. Rangers plays on, I think, and PSV chooses again for a week off.
Yeah.
But said that they have another coach now. I think he will take that also in consideration, that he has to tempering. He has to get off the loath of the match. So I'm interested I'm curious to see what he will do.
How much pressure is on PSV to qualify, Maarten? I mean, in Glasgow we always say there is huge pressure on the old firm clubs to reach the group stages, but no, as you're saying, PSV want revenge. They believe they can beat Rangers this time, but are they putting themselves under even more pressure? And what's it like in Holland? How much pressure is on them to get into the group stages?
Well, there is, because normally the number 2 of the Dutch league, I think in the last 20 seasons or something, they qualified only once or twice. So it's been a long time. It's been a long time that PSV got in Champions League. I think the last time was in 2018. Yeah, so that's 5 years ago. So the pressure is on, and they made a lot of investments this summer. So if they don't reach the Champions League group stage, well, they have to sell a player again. So the pressure is on.
Maarten, obviously.
Do you think the team, the PSV team, is stronger this year, Maarten? I know you're saying the manager you feel is maybe stronger and more equipped and more experienced, but when you think they've lost Gakpo, they've lost Simons, De Jong is a year older, do you think the team is as strong now as it was last year?
Maybe individually speaking, I don't know if they are stronger, but as a team, knowing what to do together, they can be a little bit stronger. The only thing is that the defense that didn't change a lot, and that's also the Achilles heel of PSV. And I'm sure that Rangers, they will focus on that, and it will be interesting. They have 3 players who played in the Dutch league before, 3 attackers. And for example, Danilo played PSV last season also. So I think they will try to take advantage of that. And in total, I think PSV will be as a team will be stronger. Even
Maarten, you've obviously added. Maarten, the squad's PSV have obviously added Malik Tillman to their squad this year. I mean, what sort of impact do you see him making? Is he expected to play a big role in the months ahead?
Yeah, he didn't play yet. Only in the second team, 1 match last Monday. But yeah, well, I can imagine he will play a role too. But we haven't seen him at this moment, so we don't know if he's at what level he came in. But what I remember from the games of last season, he had a big influence. He made the goal in Eindhoven, I think. It was him, Yeah. So, it will be also interesting. You have at Rangers side a couple of players who know PSV, and at PSV side you have a player who played last season in the Rangers squad. So, it's a fantastic tie to with a lot of different angles for us to ride on, right about.
Great. Okay, Maarten, well, thanks very much for joining us. We can look forward to the first leg next week, and you will see Andrew in Eindhoven.
Very good. Looking forward to it. And
tell me where the cheap beer is, because I've just come back from Geneva and there is no cheap beer in Geneva. So you need to tell me where the cheap pubs are.
Okay, well, I will do that.
Good one.
Thank you, Maarten.
Thanks, Maarten.
All right. Bye.
Andy, going back to the game last night, let's rewind our Swiss clock. Sorry for the puns.
Yeah, he's good. I like that.
How do you think, obviously, game of two halves, proverbial game of two halves. First half, nowhere near at it. Second half, much better. Just in terms of the manner of the way they got through, it was gutsy, things didn't go their way. How much will that benefit Michael Beale at a stage when he's got all these new players and he's trying to sort of implement a style just to make them believe?
Yeah, I sort of wrote that in my match report that just in terms of unifying this squad, this was a match where they really had to sort of dig in and act as a team. And I agree with you, the first half, I actually thought they started really well. I thought the first sort of 5-6 minutes they were on top. But then as soon as there was that early chance that obviously Jack Butland has to make the save from, I think it's Cognac, it just seemed to take a bit of the belief away from them. They seem to sit off Servette after that. And obviously they lose the goal. John Souttar just doesn't deal with a long ball up to the striker. And the team's a bit hesitant getting out to the second ball. And Servette punished them. It was a great finish. And, then Jack Butland has to make another crucial save just before half-time. And I think you saw the experience that Rangers do have in their team sort of come to the fore in the second half. I thought once they get back level on the night and ahead in the tie, you just saw their experience come into play in Servette. That was only their 5th European tie in the last decade, and they just don't have the same nous, the same experience that Rangers do. I think the pressure of having to force the issue was too much of a toll with them. You saw them; they were constantly passing the ball out the park. They couldn't build. That's the same pressure that would have really tested Rangers' nerve, and I think that's why this will be a big night for Michael Beale's team, because that was a game that was primed for them to fall flat in their faces. I don't think any of us think of Swiss football as being a particular hotbed of, in terms of passionate fans, but it was quite a loud atmosphere in there, and it's this type of thing that type of occasion that you could see teams wilting in. And I thought the fact that Rangers were able to stand strong in that, were able to withstand all the things against them, the heat, the pitch was sticky, as I say, the noise, the atmosphere. I think that'll do this team a world of good, just in getting that belief back. There has been times that this season they played well, but obviously there's been times where it just hasn't clicked at all. And I think this team, Michael Beale's spoken about it often enough. He just needs the team to start, believing himself a bit more, do the things that he's asking them to, and you'll see that progress. So I think he'll just be hoping that, to survive a test like that. Yeah, I know Servette aren't the biggest challenge they're going to face, but on the occasion and in the circumstances, I think it was an important result and an important performance as well.
I think Michael Beale said after the game, Scott, at half-time, the players weren't sticking to the game plan. How much of it do you think it's the game plan or the players not sticking to the game plan? What do you think? Because there were, Neil McCann, and Alan Hutton were doing it for BBC, were picking out holes in the tactical approach, like a bit like you've spoken about, the lack of width and different things.
Yeah.
In previous ones, no support for Danilo. It came later, in the game, but saying he's not really a kind of lone striker. Was the first half more to do with the actual plan as opposed to players not carrying it out?
Probably a bit of both, Gav. I think it was just a clear example of where Rangers are at the moment, in terms of them being a new team, a new squad that's been put together. Michael Beale still trying to figure out what his best system, formation, what the best plan is. I agreed with most of the stuff the pundits said on TV last night. I thought the change in system midway through the first half was actually detrimental to Rangers. Like Andy said, I thought they actually started the game reasonably well. There was a lack of support for Danilo, but I thought Sima was causing enough of a problem out wide with his pace, and Cantwell was kind of giving you the balance on the other side, because he's obviously going to drift infield and try and play a bit more. Clearly, Beale felt, and he was right, that Servette were getting far too much space in the counter-attack in the middle of the pitch, and he tried to narrow it and tried to squeeze it by changing to that diamond. But to Servette's credit, they then just switched and started going down the sides, and Rangers couldn't deal with that either. So I think he's still finding it about these players, finding out what the best system, what suits them, different players in different positions. And to Rangers' credit and to Beale's credit, he fixed it at half time. And as you've touched on there, I mean, they were far better in the second half, tactically far better. They kind of shifted 5-10 yards up the pitch. There was far more cohesion to certainly to their attacking play. And as Andy touched on earlier, I totally agree with him. It felt like a big moment last night. I know the opposition weren't great, but it felt last night like the first, you saw the first signs of this team coming together, and to get through that, particularly when Servette score and the crowd get up, and then at the end as well when they're pushing for that equaliser, I think it'd have been easy for a kind of this new Rangers team to crumble and maybe lose a late goal and get into extra time. But I actually felt as if they did really well, and I thought, listen, we know the strikers haven't hit it off yet. I don't think any of them have set the head on fire, and there's still question marks over all of these, the 4 new guys that have come in. But at least you saw the strength of the squad last night. It was able to put Dessers and Lammers on, and it gave them something different. Even putting Dowell on. I thought Sterling, I've only seen a couple of cameos for Sterling at the weekend and then last night, but I immediately thought that he would bring something to Rangers, whether it's going in, as he did last night, into a back 3. On Saturday, he actually came on at right back, and Tavernier pushed into midfield, even though it was only 5-10 minutes. But I think Sterling looks as if he's going to offer some real kind of strength defensively, whether that's at full-back or, as I say, as a kind of right centre-back. So I think they deserve a lot of credit for getting through. As Andy says, I mean, it's nothing to... you're not going to kind of crow about it in terms of the level of opposition you're facing. But in terms of where this team are at the moment, in those conditions, in those circumstances, to get through that tie, and Andy used the word unifying, I think that will really bring them together last night. And there were other big plus points. Jack Butland, as Andy mentioned, was also that was a big night for him. The kind of first real performance where he's kind of stamped his authority on it as Rangers kind of new number 1. I thought he did brilliantly, and you can't underestimate the importance of that save early on.
I think you saw in the second half just how much faith the backline had in him. They were able, in terms of defending free kicks, they were a couple of yards further up, just leaving that space in behind, knowing that if somebody gets in, he'll take care of it. And I think that's what happens when a defence realises they've got a goalkeeper they can trust. And I wrote my match report that it was a save that Alan McGregor would have been proud of, the first one. I mean, it's the sort of thing that he built his career on, and this is very early in Jack Butland's Rangers career. But they're the type of things that Rangers need from their goalkeepers. There's going to be games, going to be moments. You imagine PSV are going to need the goalkeeper to be right on top of his form. I think that'll just do the defence's confidence, the defence's faith in the goalkeeper a world of good. And it was a huge night for him, especially.
I thought the other big positives, Andy, I mean, aside from, we're talking about the strikers struggling a bit and still to prove themselves, but I really like the look of Raskin and Cifuentes in midfield. And Raskin probably had a better game last night. I thought the second half he was outstanding, but Cifuentes to me looks as if he can do everything. I mean, it's very early in his Rangers career. I love the fact that he does the simple things brilliantly in midfield. I thought he was key last night when they tinkered with the system and they had to go a bit wider, doing that shift from inside to outside right. I thought he was brilliant. His attitude looks really good. I'd almost like to see him. It might happen Saturday, maybe not, but I'd like to see him as a kind of sitter in midfield to see if he can actually control a game, control a midfield on his own. But he certainly looks capable. And I think in Cifuentes, Raskin and Cantwell, that's a really strong midfield for Rangers moving forward. Obviously, you've got guys like Dowell and Ryan Jack and Hadji on the periphery as kind of backup, John Lundstrom as well. But those three, if you can get them fit and firing and on form, that really bodes well for Rangers this season, I would think.
the performance that really stood out for me, and because it came at a time in the game when the team wasn't playing well, was Todd Cantwell. A time when the team was under a bit of the cosh and it needed guys to step up and take responsibility, take the ball in tight areas and just get them up the park a bit, just to relieve some of that pressure that Servette were just bit by bit starting to build. And I thought he did that superbly. He was so brave at times, trapped. There was a part in the first half just down in front of us in the press box where he had 3 guys around him. He didn't panic. He made sure he wriggled out, got a pass and got the team moving. And it's just unfortunate. I think it worked its way out to Tavernier on the other side and it bounced out. But I just felt that, for a guy that gets so much stick at times from all directions, I think, the character of him, it's so impressive. And I think he's really becoming the sort of beating heart of this team. And I still struggle to get my head around why Michael Beale felt he wasn't right for that first game at Kilmarnock, because for me right now, he's just simply undroppable. I just think he's the one guy in that team that you can depend on every single week. At this moment, as you say, Fuentes, I think it looks a real class act. It'll be good to see him just as he gels and gets to know his teammates. I thought Raskin, I thought he was a wee bit erratic in the first half. Some of his distribution, some of his passing wasn't quite on it. He got stripped of possession a couple of times, but as you say, the work rate in the second half, just when Rangers needed to up the tempo, up the pressure on Servette, outwork them, outrun them, that came from him. And then, I also think Borna Barisic deserves a lot of credit. Again, he got a bit of stick at the first day of the season. He got a bit of stick from the certain sections of the crowd at the weekend against Livingston. But I thought the 2 games against Servette, he was excellent. And obviously the cross for the goal was just absolutely, it's what he sort of built his early part of his Rangers reputation on. It was an absolute peach for Tavernier just to nod in at the back post.
But Tavernier also continues to get stick, doesn't he? I mean, and he just keeps popping up with moments like that, doesn't he? I mean, do you think it won't be until he's left that he's fully appreciated?
Listen, I think he started the season pretty poorly, performance-wise. I said it when we were on here after the Hoffenheim friendly, when he'd one of the worst. But that game summed him up. I think I said that at the time. It's such a poor game, and yet he scores a penalty and sets up the goal for Lammers in the second half. So he's still to get into kind of top gear. Listen, we all know he's defensive kind of frailties at times, but as you say, Gavin, what can you say about goals and assists and popping up with big moments?
That's 18 for him in Europe now. I mean, that's him, third in the list. I mean, I think he only needs 3 more. And he goes level with Ali McCoist. I mean, we're talking about a right back here. I mean, I know he's been here for 6, 7, 8 years now, but I mean, a right back to be outscoring potentially the club's record goal scorer is just
I don't know if you agree. I think Sterling coming in will be good for Tavernier. I think he needs somebody kind of breathing down his neck. He's not had it often enough at Rangers, maybe for a short spell when Nathan Patterson kind of burst onto the scene. But I think Sterling will put pressure on him in terms of right back. And also, as I said, I could see them going to a back 3 at times away from home in Europe, or when they're trying to close a game out. And Sterling came on at right centre back last night and looked as if he could do a job. And if they do that more often, maybe in away games in Europe or even big games here, I think it actually frees Tavernier up a bit more to push forward and get goals and assists. So I just think Sterling coming in could be a real important signing, not just for the team as a whole, but for Tavernier individually as well.
He's 31 as well. I mean, James Tavernier. I mean, and he's since Steven Gerrard's time in the club, he's played every single game practically. There's so few examples of when he's been given that opportunity to rest his legs. And I think at 31 now, it's unrealistic to expect him to hit the physical numbers, the runs forward. I mean, and Michael Beale spoke about that last night. He had to, at half-time, say to Tavernier and Barisic, you need to go, but you need to let the handbrake off and get yourselves further forward. We need you guys to provide the width. So, perhaps, it's a bit like Ryan Jack, he's been sort of dipped in and out the team picking his moments, picking the big games, giving him the afternoon off, and it's, the challenge isn't going to be quite as onerous. And I think, you could potentially be looking at doing that with Tavernier. And I agree with you. I mean, the very small snippets we've seen of Sterling, I like it. I mean, he's got a look about him. He carries himself like a guy that is assured of himself and knows that he's ready to play at this sort of level. So, I think that bodes well. But I agree with you. I don't think he's been quite his usual self. But I think there's reasons for that, and I think it's only to be expected. As you say, he's probably past the peak of his career. He needs somebody that's going to either push him or is going to be able to give him that sort of respite and allow him to sort of put his feet up and recharge.
What do you do with Barisic, though? I mean, you're right. He was brilliant last night, and I've been as critical as anybody of him, and probably thought this summer his time's up at Rangers. No want to see more of Yilmaz or even signing another left back. But with a year left in his deal, I mean, what do you think Michael Beale's thinking? Did they offer him a new deal? Did they just let him run this year out, and then you lose him for nothing next summer, in the knowledge that he's been a really good value signing? What do you think?
All the mood music has been from him. I think he spoke over the summer that he wanted to sign a new deal. So I think you just throw the gauntlet down and you say, if you want a new contract, earn it. So you say to him, perhaps not allow it to get to the sort of Christmas stage where they can start signing, but you say to him over the next 3-4 months, if you perform well enough, if we think that you're back to your best, then we'll give you a deal, and you just throw it back to him and allow him to go and play his way into a new contract. I think that would probably be the fairest way of looking at it. If he can't do that, then you've seen all you need to see of him, and you start planning elsewhere. Obviously they've got Yilmaz there. I expect him to come back into the team at some point, but Borna Barisic, if he plays like he did last night, I don't think Yilmaz takes that jersey off.
No.
He has to play like that, and not just the big games. He has to play week in, week out. And it's the defence. I mean, what impressed me last night was that he was so tuned in defensively. There was times where balls in behind him, and he was alert to it. And obviously, we've seen times, especially in Old Firm games, where he's just been caught in the blind side far too many times. So, for me, if he can play like that last night, then I think he deserves another. I'm not saying I give him a 2 or 3 year deal. You certainly could give him another 12 months, but I think you have to put the challenge to him, play your way into a new contract.
Yeah, he's only 30. It's not. 30's
no,
not.
I think Andy's right in terms of. I think the chance for Barisic is to go and play in the Premier League and stuff like that, which he might have had an opportunity a few years ago when he was in the Croatia team and stuff like that. I think that's probably gone now. So where does he go after Rangers? Possibly back to Croatia. Anywhere's going to be a downward kind of step, probably. So I just think that dynamics interests me. I probably agree with Andy. I mean, I was talking to somebody last night about it. They said the same thing. I think you just say to him, look, for the next 6 months, earn a new deal. And when we get to Christmas and that, when he's able to go and talk to other clubs, that's maybe when Rangers will say, well, listen, I've been really impressed with recent performances, so here's another year with an option or whatever. Or the flip side of that is they decide in January, look, it's not been great, we're going to look at other options, and at that point he's obviously able to kind of sort out his own future. So, but he does look like a guy with a bit between his teeth. Again, he looks like a guy who's been told, go and show us what you can do and earn a new deal, whereas maybe a year, 18 months ago, or even in the last year, he looked like a guy in a bit of a comfort zone on his way down and his way out of Rangers. But as I say, it was impressive last night.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how you saw next week. That's going to be a huge game at Ibrox next Tuesday, first leg against PSV. So just before you both go, in a word, will Rangers reach the group stage?
Yes.
Yes.
Great stuff. Nice and positive.
Gav, I just on PSV quickly. I touched on it with Maarten there. I've heard a lot of people, before this Servette tie or before the second leg saying, even if Rangers get through, I mean, PSV will take 3, 4, 5 off them. I just don't see that. I mean, I don't see any. I know Martin's right in terms of the manager. I think Peter Bosz is a big upgrade on Van Nistelrooy, who was in his first gig. But as I touched on with him there, when I look at their team, No, they've lost big players. The defenders that they had last year that didn't look that great. You know, the guys that sold the goal, Benitez, the keeper, and is it Ramalho, the centre back who Tillman robbed to set up Chola. These guys are all still there.
Yep.
Yeah, they've brought one or two in, but nothing to frighten Rangers, I don't think. And Rangers are still a work in progress, but I think it'll be very, very tight. But I've just got a feeling, as we said earlier, that was a big moment for Rangers last night. And if I think if Rangers can get a lead, say if Rangers get a 2-goal lead in the first leg at Ibrox, then I think they would be through. I don't think they would fear going to Eindhoven.
Great. Right, okay. Thanks a lot, guys. Once again, we'll see. We'll pick you up on that next week, Scott.
when they get beat 3-0.
Right, okay. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, boys.